not remind me to record and to do captioning. So I will just share the PowerPoint just around your checklist for what you need to make sure is part of your assignment. And then you can come back and look at it and learn from it and all of those good things. And then I'll be around. Then if you're feeling like you've got a way forward, then you can head off into the sunset. And if you've got some questions, some specific questions that you want to ask, then I'll stick around and I'll be here. But I thought a more low-key and very tangible session tonight would be good. So, checklist for the final report. And so basically, Frizana and I have gone through every different section of the report and just asked you some questions. And some of the questions are going to seem a bit funny to you. You're going to be like, what? Like, for example, does the cover page contain your name and your capstone research topic? Now, sometimes, and please tell me if you, like, I'll put my hand up wholeheartedly if you ask me if have I ever forgotten something really silly on a paper. 100%, because sometimes when you've been looking at something for a long time, you forget things. Like, and I'll tell you that over the years, I have gotten lots of assignments that say on them, like, sample research report template for the final report, but you want to remove that because you're making it your own. Is your list of figures, tables, charts, and graphs in APA 7 format? Are the list of tables listed together, followed by a list of charts and embedded? I won't go in and show every example, but I've provided hyperlinks to every example that you'll be able to access yourself. Is your table of contents easy to read? Is it helpful? Does it include page numbers? Have you removed irrelevant material from the template? So that means that if I've given you instructions in the template, you want to remove that material. And so then from there, your abstract, your introduction, and your lit review. So does your abstract cover all the key points required? And remember, in week 12, we looked at what is required in an abstract, and you actually have about 20 examples of abstracts that are all the papers that you looked at this semester have abstracts in the front of them. And I will tell you 100% that you learn to make an abstract based on looking at examples of abstracts. It's like, just like you looked at examples of a research ethics protocol, and you looked at an example of a lit review. So you are writing in a particular way, and that's what you're going to be doing. And when are you working on your abstract? When was that again? Do you do it first or
at the end?
At the very end.
When you finish the research.
Oh, yes, you're absolutely right. And does your introduction section provide an introduction to the broad topic, an introduction to the study, so why this study and why it's important, also why it's important to you, and your research question. And so you are absolutely, so these pieces here, with the exception of the abstract, your introduction, you've got an introductory section. And you may want to tweak it a little bit. Have you incorporated any suggestions for improvement that you received on your lit review assignment for semester 1, or from your lit review in semester 2 when you submitted that introductory piece with a truncated lit review? And are your citations in APA style? And do in-text citations correspond to reference list citations? And this one here is actually a tricky one, right? Because when you are doing a lot of copying and pasting like you are in this assignment, and when something has taken place over 15 months, because you've been actually working on this research project for 15 months, you can sometimes get references in your reference section that have no in-text citations anymore, or you can have an in-text citation that doesn't have a reference anymore. I'm going to give you my very special approach to checking that out. So if you go to your Word document, what you're going to do is you're going to use the find. Do people know where they can find the find on the toolbar at the top? It's under editing, sorry, and you can press find and then you can look for a word. So you just put the author name in and you can tell if you have both a reference and an in-text citation, and then make your corrections from there. So that's like it's something that you do at the end of the end of working on your paper, just before you do the abstract, and you're just checking those things, because if I know how to do that, then I can check those things as well, right? So you want to make sure that you check those things too.
How many references do you expect from us, Bethany?
4,000. Is that reasonable? Yeah. Okay. No. So Hind, by this point, you've probably got 10 to 12 references or more at this point. Like so I wouldn't worry about it. If you've taken some things out, then it's okay. But I'm actually not going to worry. So like you've got what you need. And if you had some feedback along the way that said you need some more references, then you need to make sure you have more references. But in general, that hasn't been something that was an issue for people on their references. But I would imagine it would be somewhere between 10 and 12. Some super keeners had a lot more, and some people might have had 8 to 10. And I'm good with any of those things. So I'm not going to if you submit something with one reference, I might say, where the heck did all the other references go? But you should be okay. I know it's perfect if your professor says, this is how many you need. But I'm not going to do that.
So, but it depends on everyone's research. But by the
Right.
way, Bethany, lit
Yeah.
review for me in assignment 1, it was done in different topic.
Right. So what you'll do is you're gonna, so that's why you need to know. So along the way, I'm sure you've taken a look at literature as you were thinking about it. So like really, Hind, you want to have kind of 8 to 10, like 8 to 10 references is absolutely fine. Because sometimes when you've used something, you may have rejected something like along the way. If someone has 12 to 14 references that they've looked at, it may be that they've discarded some of them along the way. So you can make yours nice and streamlined from this point. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And Hind, if you're having issues finding some articles, I know that with a few other people who shifted a little bit, I've offered to just support them just if they're having some issues finding something. So please feel free to reach out if that would be helpful.
Yeah, I will let you know.
Okay.
And by the way, I'm gonna write the lit review from scratch, because when I did the assignment 1, I've done it for different topic, for a different subject,
Yeah,
with the
sure.
Dana.
Yeah, that's right. And so there was a few people that have done that. So Julia Begree did something,
I know.
and Paul did something as well. So but in the end, so yeah, I like very happy to send you. Michelle also did a difference, shifted
the subject.
topic. Yeah. And so I think all of you in the end were happier with what you looked at.
Yeah.
But the tricky part about switching is that you did do the work on the original question. But I will not remind me when you submit it, because I'm going to be looking at a lot of papers, but just remind me that you shifted a little bit, and I will yeah, just so that you remind me. And you do have an opportunity to add some more things in when you are working on like next semester, right? Like you can add some more pieces in, so you'll be okay. Thanks for asking the question though, Hind. So methodology. Now this one here, really, you guys have got this, right? So your methodology section, you need to have the 4 major headings. So research design, which refers to your ethics protocol for content, data collection, which refers, and then you want to refer to your ethics protocol for content. Now, for both of those, the research design and the data collection, if you changed up what you did, so for instance, Jay made some shifted from doing Peel region, Jay, to all of Ontario.
No, I was always doing all of
Oh,
Ontario.
you're always
I
doing,
shifted from having to work for at least 3 years to working anytime.
okay,
I
yep.
shifted instead of just nurses and PSWs to anyone working. I did a couple of shifts.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
those just need to be represented. And I'm thinking of Dolapo shifted to uh looking at BIPOC entrepreneurs and then shifted back to Black entrepreneurs. And in fact, you're welcome to include that in the process. But also you ended up only talking to your original the original group that you were looking for participants for. So and yeah, so those pieces there, you might want to make a little bit of a tweak, but otherwise you have it in your ethics protocol. And then your data analysis. So you want to describe what you did in assignment number 3, parts A and B, in your own words. You're going to replicate what you did for your data analysis. And then you want to, any ethical safeguards that you took. And so that could be anonymity, confidentiality, consent forms, for Hind took some really specific ethical safeguards because she was working recruiting people from her own organization, then was careful about who those participants were, etc. And safeguards, I'm just I know, I'm just trying to think of Sophie would have done the same thing with research participants with her work. She was working not with the people that she was working with, but with their caregivers. Um, and uh, and Dorothy would have taken just, I was just thinking if anyone did anything external. Yeah, I think most people just had regular consent and anonymity through a survey, but those are just some examples of what people did. And then you want to make sure, and this is, it might seem like a really simple thing, but it tenses can make the reading of something terrible. So you want to make sure that your methodology section is written in the past tense because, my friends, you have completed your you've completed your research. Your research is done, and so all of this stuff that you're talking about is in the past. um and so congratulations. So this is nice work section. And so for your results and your findings section, you want to make sure that you incorporate any feedback that you got from assignment 3 part B. You want your findings section to look like that in a professional reports and journal article. And you have, once again, in the readings from this semester, you've got a lot of great examples. So you want to make sure that your tables and charts are clearly labeled, and that there's a little bit of a narrative that accompanies each table and chart. And you want to make sure it's professional looking so that you have percentages and you have your N equals. And there's some great, just if you want to see an example to make sure you're on the right track, just click on the example there. And then our quotes used selectively and to illustrate narratives at strategic points instead of being pasted in a block below the text. So you want to integrate the quotes in. And our quotes labeled with participant IDs of some sort. So for anyone who did a survey, each of your research participants would have a number. And for each of you with the who have done interviews, you'll use pseudonyms for the interviews. And you want to indicate, first of all, that you've changed names and that they are pseudonyms, so people know that. And then you want to make sure that you would say, I have a research participant whose name is Ralph, and but his real name was Peter, but I'm calling him Ralph. And so then I would say, from Ralph's interview. Okay. Now for your discussion and conclusion, which I think is probably some of the most fun work to do. And I know, oh, Bethany, you're calling this assignment that we have to do, you're calling it fun. But yes, I am. I'm boldly stepping into that. So does your discussion section have all of the necessary pieces? And take a look at the class content related to discussion, but then also look at like how I learned to write well and to write good research papers is by reading lots of research papers. So if you're wanting to just confirm that you're going the right direction, then look at how different researchers have shaped discussion. And do you go beyond simply describing the data to discussing the data in light of existing literature? So you might weave in and confirm your data and connect it to the literature that you've already looked at, and providing your analysis as well. And does your conclusion section contain any limitations you want to highlight? And this is where you might say, my scope, like the time that I had to do the research, was a limitation. Or Jay might say, having access to people who could answer my research questions, that was a limitation. And I wish that I'd had better connections, because it was a real struggle to find people to participate, even though I know this is a really important topic. And you can talk about, Delapo could say the same thing, that it was a struggle right to the very end to get those 5 people, and that having a better connection to a community organization. So in real world research, you would never do research in which you don't already have a pre-existing relationship and work really directly with a community partner. But then it would take a year to develop a relationship with a community partner, which we didn't have, because we didn't want to have a 3-year program just to have a whole year developing a relationship with a community partner. But it certainly would have made recruitment much easier, right? And also, so then the other piece that you want to talk about are implications for policy and practice. And so all of you, the work that you've done have implications for policy and practice. And that's an exciting thing for you to think about. Like, the purpose of your research is to be able to contribute to the body of knowledge around the topic that you've looked at. And then, do you have any recommendations on what future research on the topic should be like, and what should it cover? And what approach would be useful to shed more light on the topic? And this is where Delapo could say, in fact, I know, Delapo, Bethany, I'm never putting my camera on again, Bethany, because you totally talked about me so many times, where Delapo might say, I think that more research should be done, and that partnering with organizations across Ontario that have existing connections to Black entrepreneurs Black female entrepreneurs would be really helpful. And possibly Dorothy would say, man, oh man, I think it's really important to see if government policy actually works, but it was a challenge to find the people to talk with me about it, because sometimes people working in the field don't really know what the policy changes are and how they're impacting. And Mustafa might say, we actually need, so he's going to say, Mustafa and Gofrain and Shata are going to say, you know, we need to do more research on this, but not just research. We need to make changes. We absolutely need to make changes in housing and affordable housing. And that, you know, international students are not the reason why we have a housing problem in Canada. And so we are inviting people into Canada, and so we should be providing and recognizing that they're going to need housing, and that should be prioritized. I bet Mustafa would say something like that, maybe. And
It's all people, not international students, have the problems in housing in Canada.
yeah,
Yeah, all of us.
yeah, for sure. And
Yeah.
Sukhman, Sumaya, and Rebecca will all say something about international students and mental health. Also, lots of implications for policy and especially for practice. Michelle is going to have, from her work, is going to, in terms of looking at BIPOC, by the BIPOC community and their access to resources and what they need, is gonna make some recommendations. And Michelle, this is where you excel, is at the recommendation thing. In fact, Michelle, if I asked Michelle the question, what would it mean to live the dream? And probably Michelle has ideas right now about what the dream might look like, but one of the things that for the last 3 years that Michelle, I had to keep saying to Michelle is, Michelle, I know you want to do housing, and you want to do housing for Indigenous community members, and you want to do housing for Indigenous community members who were in residential schools. And Michelle's bigger dream is to build one of those spaces. And in fact, every project that she's ever done with me, she wanted to develop it in our grant writing course. So then she'll have really important things to say about kind of living the dream in that. Yeah, and Michelle.
It's kind of interesting because I told my friends who kind of work for St. Matthew's, and now they're actually building an Indigenous and Black senior supportive housing. Yeah, so they kind of already did it. So I'm very happy for that.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
awesome. I also know that there's another Indigenous housing project going up with Sajawea. And that
Sacagawea has been around for a while,
no.
but the problem with that is you need to be you actually need to have status.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's the tricky part with Indigenous community members, for sure. Yeah. And so like there's some really, and Monique is going to have some recommendations about food security. So all of you will have, like, this is exciting. So I am so excited to read these sections, and they will also play a role in what you end up doing next semester as well. Because you're going to be sharing your research and looking at the most appropriate places to share your research next semester. And then your favorite part, the references, are references in APA 7 style. And Jay's special request is that not everyone should contact him in the next 3 days to ask about their APA style. Is that true, Jay?
I certainly did not say that.
Okay. No, so you want everyone to contact you with their APA?
Yeah, the Tudor Ocean site.
Okay.
Right? That's what I'm here for.
So Jay's saying, you heard this invitation. Jay is saying, bring it to me. Bring it to me.
If you need help, yeah.
I'll support you. Nice, Jay. Nice work. Okay, so you heard that from the esteemed Jay Hardy. And once again, just a reminder that you want to make sure that your references that are in the reference list are, and also in the text of your document, are the same. And then for qualitative interviews, all your required appendices labeled and attached. And for your survey, you want to attach the consent form that went into your survey, plus your survey questions or a link to your survey. And then you also want to go through the rubric to ensure you've covered all of the pieces of the material that you'll be graded on. And that, my friends, is the end of just checking in for you on the on all of these pieces. And so does this seem manageable? I'm going to just upload it again for you, for those of you who might have come in a little bit late, because that's one of the tricky things about Zoom, is that if you come in a little bit later, you can't get anything that you there you go. So I'll put it in there again just so that you have it, and I'll post it as well. But I always wait for the video to download and then and I upload it again. And so it just takes usually a little bit of time to do that. How are people feeling? Can I see an emoji in terms of how people are feeling about your assignment and these final pieces? Jay is feeling much better than his picture. So Michelle is feeling like vomiting. Okay, we've got two sides. Monique is feeling angry, or yeah, I think that looks angry. Angry or frustrated. Delapo, you're feeling sad that you're at the end? No, not sad that you're at the end. Frustrated. Yeah, Monique, for sure. And Dorothy is feeling a little bit upside down. I know this crazy end of the semester. You wish that you could and Rebecca is feeling cool in the sun, or just cool. This end of the semester is stressful, and you wish that you could be like one of those time stopper people. Like, if I could you imagine if you could just like stop time around you and do stuff? Like in Marvel films. Oh, Hind is feeling not sure what that one is. It's frustrated, crying.
Probably exhausted.
Yeah,
maybe
exhausted. Yeah, and Sukma is feeling like she's gonna pass out. So yeah, and
tired.
oh,
Tired.
tired.
I'm just
You're
checking
tired.
I'm
Yeah.
just checking what is the description. Yeah.
Yeah. So you do know that you've got most of this, everyone, right? Like you've got this. I encourage you, just if you're wondering, if you're feeling like I've got this big thing ahead of me and I don't even know where to start, just start at the beginning. Start plopping or putting things in, and then it'll start coming together. Has anyone started the process yet?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. And how was it, Jay?
It's not bad, honestly. Like I've pasted in most of the chunks that I've needed to paste in, and each section that I was doing, I was making sure to grab all the references so that I was getting them, not waiting until the end for the references. I went, I did a search for free stock images, and
Nice.
signed up for this like iStock by Getty Images, and got a
Nice.
cover photo for it, and
Nice.
yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, there's a bunch of, so if you are all interested in images, there are a bunch of free image sites that are that I've posted also on week 14. So you're welcome to integrate pictures also into your report if you'd like to. Like, that's also allowed, but you just have to reference them. But if you want to do that, you can. You can also wait to do something like that next semester. But and so slow and steady wins the race. And in this case, it's very true about a document that has a lot of different pieces, just going through it systematically. And the PowerPoint, Delapo, was not meant to make you cry. It is meant to just confirm for you and just make sure that you feel better about what you're doing, because you're like, okay, I've done that. Okay, So like even print off the PowerPoints, although I don't think students use printers anymore, not very often. But just, or even like, you know, just check off or whatever works for you. Sometimes I like to actually do things old school and check things off like my mother did when she made Saturday morning task lists. She would always write a task list, and she would always put 2 things on that she'd already done so that she could check 2 things off ahead of time, and it made her feel better as she looked at doing it. And so reach out to me if you find yourself in a difficult position. Remember that you are it's due this Friday by midnight, so Friday the 8th. And however, you can request an extension until Tuesday the 12th. And so reach out to me if that's something that you need, because you've got circumstances that put you in a place where you might need that. And if there are other extenuating circumstances, then I'm happy to have a conversation, and then we would consider an I grade. So just reach out to me and let me know what's going on. And I'm really happy to connect. I think that what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to stop our recording.